Let's look at Anthony Ryder from South Lyon, Michigan, recently selected as the Lions 2020 Fan of the Year. He has a passion about sports broadcasting.
With the 112th selection in the 2021 NFL Draft, the Detroit Lions select Amon-Ra St. Brown, wide receiver, USC. One pride, baby! Yeah!
What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to another Detroit Lions video. Now, the Detroit Lions are 1-1 in the 2022 NFL season and currently have their biggest matchup of the year to date. The Lions are traveling to Minnesota this week to take on the 1-1 division rival Minnesota Vikings. And today we're going to take a look at their injury reports. We're going to take a look at some of the team updates that we've had going over the last week or so. And we're going to take a look at players that are likely to play, players that are unlikely to play, and how it may affect the game come Sunday. So with that being the case, let's get straight on into taking a look at the Lions injury updates as well as the Minnesota Vikings injury updates to see who's playing, who's not, and how it may affect the game. Starting off with the Detroit Lions, the Lions have a fairly lengthy injury list this week, and a majority of those players are starters or key role players on this team. The first of which is John Cominsky, the waiver wire pickup from about a month or two ago. The Lions picked him up from the Atlanta Falcons when he was waived during training camp, and he has undoubtedly been one of the better free agent signings this year for the Detroit Lions, or I guess technically one of the better waiver wire pickups this year for the Detroit Lions. He actually leads the team in pressures from what the statistics that I saw earlier. He leads the team in pressures and did have a key crucial sack in the fourth quarter versus the Washington Commanders a week ago. He has been, not a full-time player, right? Not a starter. He has not played nearly as much as Hutchinson or Harris or Aleem McNeil or Isaiah Buggs or guys like that, but he's played roughly 20 to 30% of the defensive snaps for the Detroit Lions, and he has been incredibly efficient on his pass rushing attempts. He has been relentless. He has been getting a lot of pressure. Finally got his first sack of the season last week, but unfortunately, after having hand surgery and after having hand surgery and having a press conference by Dan Campbell, it does seem as though, unfortunately, John Cominsky may be out for a number of weeks, right? I'd say very best scenario, he comes back within maybe a month or so with a cast on his hand, kind of similar to what maybe Jason Pierre-Paul had or what some of the other players have after hand surgery in the NFL, right? He probably won't be back to 100% at any point this season because, hand surgeries and surgeries in general just take a long time to heal. So best case scenario, he's back within a month or two. Worst case scenario, he may be shut down for the season, but the fact that he has not been placed on injured reserve or IR yet is encouraging, to say the very least. Now, Aidan Hutchinson did not practice yesterday either. He hasn't practiced yesterday or today. Going into Friday, he is yet to practice with the team this week. However, I do think he is likely to play still. They are nursing a hamstring injury, and from what we've heard, it seems to be mostly cramping, and it seems to be mostly a Charlie horse from what Dan Campbell said at his press conference on Sunday after the game. So that doesn't seem too concerning to me. It is a little bit concerning that Aidan Hutchinson hasn't practiced in 2 days and it's taking this long to maybe heal properly, but I feel like this one is maybe a little bit more of a precautionary measure, right? Trying to make sure it's back to 100% before the game on Sunday, opposed to truly something that he can't play through when the time eventually comes around. Now, Aidan Hutchinson, of course, is a huge member of this Detroit Lions defense, coming away with 3 sacks a week ago in the first half before the injury occurred. If Aidan Hutchinson is playing, the Lions are going to have a chance to win on defense. Aidan Hutchinson is disruptive. As I said, 3 sacks and 6 pressures a week ago. He is a force on the defensive line, and him and Charles Harris are a pretty dominant duo. They have led the Detroit Lions to having one of the better pressure rates in the NFL. The Lions are top 10 in the NFL right now in pressures and are one of the higher teams in terms of sacks as well through 2 weeks of the season. They have been a very good dynamic duo, and if Aiden Hutchinson can't go on Sunday, that pass rushing duo is going to hurt significantly. Now, Jonah Jackson has yet to practice in the past 2 weeks. He didn't practice much last week because of his broken finger, and this week that trend continues. I think it is pretty likely to say that Jonah Jackson will not play again this week. We're all hoping that he will. We're hoping that he can return, right? Hoping that the finger injury isn't something major. Again, kind of like John Kaminsky, the fact that he hasn't been placed on the injury reserve list is encouraging to the fact that he may be back within a month or so. But the fact that he hasn't practiced yet this week is discouraging to the fact that he may make the trip to Minnesota. Now, DeAndre Swift has yet to practice this week as well with an ankle injury. I believe actually today he may have been limited in practice and did return for some small drills and such, but he has yet to do a full practice since the first week of the NFL season. I wouldn't be surprised if DeAndre Swift is limited on touches again. Hopefully he can get more of that 10 to 12 touch range opposed to that 5 to 7 that he saw a week ago. But regardless, DeAndre Swift will very likely play in this game, maybe limited, but will almost definitely make the trip to Minnesota. Will almost definitely warm up and will likely see, I would say, anywhere between 7 to 12 touches on the game. And that may not seem like a lot, but with DeAndre Swift being your running back, 7 to 12 touches is all you need for multiple big plays and a couple of scores. I would expect DeAndre Swift to play quite a bit, right? I would expect that the odds of him playing are pretty high this week, but I would expect him not to be 100% quite yet. Moving on to some of the limited practices, TJ Hawkinson did show up on the injury report this week with a hip injury. He has been limited in practice. Generally, if you're limited, you are going to play in the game. You'll make the trip. You might not get all the targets, all the production that you're used to, but you'd likely make the trip and at the very least suit up and start playing a little bit. TJ Hawkinson has not been super effective this year, has made a couple really big plays, has made a couple key catches, and has made a few very significant, very impressive catches this point on the season. But the drop issues have been a concern up to this point, and TJ Hawkinson isn't really off to the start that I think a lot of people were hoping he would have this season under new offensive coordinator Ben Johnson. Now, Juju Hughes has been limited at practice this week with a shoulder. He has not been able to play a full practice yet. He is a depth safety, but he is certainly a key contributor on special teams. And if he is out, it might not be as big or as, glaring of a hole as maybe, say, Jonah Jackson or DeAndre Swift, but he is a key contributor on special teams, and he would be a big loss if he doesn't make the trip to Minnesota. Now, other players include Amani Oruwariye, who are out with a back injury. He missed all of last week because of that back. He is limited in practice this week, as is Frank Ragnow with his injury that he is continuing to sustain. Both of them, I would say, are likely to play this week. Both of them have been limited at practice, and I would say last week was more precautionary than anything, right? I think with Frank Ragnow, they really wanted to rest him so that that groin and that foot weren't continuing to go after him season in and season out, but I think they wanted to give him that week to just fully heal, get back to close to 100% so he can be the best player he can be, instead of, battling this injury for the entire season. You sit him for a week and let him fully recover instead of forcing him to play at 50, 75% on the day. Amani Oruwariye, I think, was a little bit more significant of a back injury, but being limited at practice is encouraging, and going up against the wide receiver room that they will, Amani will be a key part if the Lions want to win this game this weekend. And then Ifeatu Melifonwu has yet to play a game for Detroit, right? Was injured a majority of the preseason and hasn't played a snap for the Detroit Lions yet. He has been limited all season with a hamstring injury, and he has been at limited practice all week this week. We're hoping to see Ifeatu Melifonwu make a big splash in his season. A lot of people had some high expectations for the young corner/safety as he was coming out of Syracuse. We have yet to see those big splashy plays, but we have seen some flashes in the past. And I think that this team and this secondary is a better one when Ifeatu is on the field for the Lions. Now, moving on to the Vikings injury report. The Vikings have significantly less players on their injury report, but I think that their injured players are going to be more significant than the Detroit Lions, as Harrison Smith is the big one. Harrison Smith has not practiced all week with a concussion that he sustained versus Philadelphia. And a concussion is obviously a very serious injury in the NFL, right? It's not like, it's a strained hamstring. It's not like it's a tight back. It's not like it's, a broken finger, right? A concussion is very, very serious to the health of the player in a way that a broken bone or a torn muscle is not. Right, the NFL and NFL teams are far more cautious about concussion protocol and things like that when it comes to head and neck injuries. And because of that, I would say it's pretty likely that Harrison Smith will not play this week. Now, speaking from personal experience as an athlete, right, I don't know exactly what the NFL protocols are, but I know at least for college sports, if you sustain a concussion, you were out for at minimum a week until you can pass the concussion protocol test. And I would assume it is something very similar in the NFL. I would be highly surprised if Harrison Smith plays this week. Even if he is eligible to play, I wouldn't be surprised if Minnesota just sits him for the week, lets him fully recover, lets his head kind of get back, where it should be, right? Let him recover from that concussion as much as possible. Because at the end of the day, you don't want to risk your player's health for an individual game. And then Andrew Booth, the rookie cornerback from Clemson, is struggling with an injury as well. He did not practice this week, and I'm not sure of the severity of his injury, but it does seem as though there is a potential that he may not play either, leaving a really big opportunity for the Detroit Lions to potentially go out and take advantage of a depleted Minnesota Vikings secondary. But with all that being said, that is all we have for you guys today. That is the injury update for the Detroit Lions. The Lions have more injuries by number, but I would expect a majority of their injured guys to play. Guys like Swift, Ragnow, Hawk, Amani, and Hutchinson, I'd say, are all pretty likely to play. I'd be surprised if any of them actually didn't suit up and didn't play at least some portion of the game on Sunday. Whereas the Minnesota Vikings could be without their captain and leader on defense, as well as maybe a starting caliber cornerback. So we have to wait and see. We'll keep you updated with the injuries as they arise and as they continue to be reported. But with all that being said, that's all I got for you guys today. Thank you all so much for watching. Until next time, and as always, go Lions!